Welcome to the channel The Coin Merchant, and before you spend another dime, you need to hear what I'm about to tell you, because tucked inside the ordinary pocket change you carry every single day, there might be a coin so valuable it could completely rewrite your financial story. And today we're starting with a dime. Yes, a dime, from 2005 with a D mint mark that has left coin experts, auction houses, and collectors absolutely speechless. Because this isn't some ancient relic from a forgotten era. This is a coin that was minted during your lifetime, a coin that millions of people have held, spent, and tossed into tip jars without a second thought, and yet certain versions of this 2005 Roosevelt Dime have commanded prices that seem more like lottery winnings than spare change. So before you reach into your pocket or crack open that change jar sitting on your dresser, stay right here, because this information could be the most financially important thing you hear all week. This coin, the 2005 Roosevelt Dime, has sold for as much as $77 million, and yes, you read that correctly, a 10-cent piece bearing the face of Franklin D. Roosevelt has reached valuations so extraordinary that it has become one of the most talked about coins in modern numismatic history. And the reason why comes down to a combination of minting anomalies, preservation conditions, and collector demand that have created a perfect storm of value that most people walking around today have absolutely no idea about. So let's break this down together and figure out exactly what you need to look for, because the difference between an ordinary 2005 Roosevelt dime and one worth a life-changing fortune can come down to details that are invisible to the untrained eye but absolutely unmistakable once you know what you're looking for. The Denver Mint in 2005 was operating at full production capacity, churning out hundreds of millions of dimes to meet the country's circulation needs, and when you're producing coins at that kind of industrial scale and speed, errors happen, small, subtle, sometimes barely perceptible mistakes in the minting process that slip through quality control and make it into the general money supply, and those errors, my friend, are exactly what separates a 10-cent coin from a $10 million coin. Because collectors and investors who understand the rare coin market know that scarcity combined with documented provenance and exceptional preservation creates value that no stock market, Northwest real estate investment, and no savings account can replicate. And that's the beautiful, mind-bending reality of numismatics that keeps collectors up at night searching through rolls and rolls of coins hoping to find that one extraordinary piece. Can you imagine sitting at your kitchen table, rolling a pile of change you'd been collecting for months, maybe years, and suddenly holding up a dime that looks just slightly different from all the others? Maybe the lettering seems a little off, maybe there's a doubling effect on Roosevelt's profile that shouldn't be there, maybe the mint mark sits in an unusual position or shows evidence of a die error that occurred during the stamping process, and realizing that what you're holding isn't worth 10 cents but potentially more than most people earn in several lifetimes. That scenario has played out in living rooms, garages, and coin shops across America, and it could absolutely happen to you, which is exactly why you're in the right place right now learning exactly what to look for. The specific errors and varieties that drive the 2005 Roosevelt Dime to stratospheric values include double die obverse errors, where the die used to stamp the coin's face shows a mechanical doubling that creates a shadow or echo effect on Roosevelt's portrait, particularly visible in the eye, ear, and the inscription "I in God We Trust." And when you're examining a coin for this type of error, you want to use a quality loupe, ideally 10-power magnification, and look very carefully at the lettering and the facial features, because a genuine double die error will show a very clean, distinct separation in the doubled elements rather than the blurry machine doubling that is far more common and far less valuable. And this distinction matters enormously because it's the difference between a coin worth face value and one that could pay off your mortgage. Now here's what makes this even more thrilling. The 2005 Roosevelt Dime errors that reach the highest valuations are almost always found in coins that have been preserved in exceptional, uncirculated condition, which means coins that were pulled from mint rolls or bank rolls before they ever entered general circulation. coins that were stored carefully and never handled with bare hands, never cleaned, never subjected to the kind of environmental damage that degrades a coin's surfaces and reduces its grade. And if you have any bank-wrapped rolls of dimes from 2005 sitting around, or if you know someone who does, you need to go through those rolls with absolute care right now because the potential payoff is extraordinary. The Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, the two most respected grading services in the world, have certified examples of high-grade 2005 Roosevelt Dime errors that have subsequently achieved prices at major auction houses including Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers that would make your jaw hit the floor, and the grading scale these services use runs from poor 1 at the absolute bottom to the perfect mint state, 70 at the very top, and for error coins like the ones we're discussing today, the difference between an MS-65 and an MS-67 can translate into tens of thousands of dollars in additional value, which is why professional grading and authentication is absolutely essential before you attempt to sell any coin you believe might be valuable. But hold on, because the next coin we're covering has an even more unbelievable story that you will not want to miss, so keep watching because we're just getting started. If you're excited about what you're hearing right now, smash that subscribe button and join the Coin Merchant family so you never miss a discovery like this one, because we're bringing you the most valuable coin knowledge on the internet and you deserve to be first in line every single time we reveal something extraordinary. Let's talk about the discovery stories surrounding the 2005 Roosevelt Dime, because some of the most valuable examples have turned up in the most ordinary, unexpected circumstances that prove beyond any doubt that incredible wealth can literally be hiding in the most mundane places imaginable. Think about the collector in the Midwest who was going through a box of coins his late father had saved over decades, just dusty old rolls of change from the 1990s and 2000s, and buried in one of those rolls was a 2005 Roosevelt Dime with a dramatic doubling error that had been preserved in near-perfect condition simply because it had never been opened, never been touched, never been spent, and when he finally had it authenticated and graded, the valuation he received changed his family's financial situation completely and permanently. And stories like this aren't fairy tales, they are documented, verifiable events that happen in the coin collecting world with surprising regularity, which is why every single one of us who has access to pocket change, old rolls, or inherited coin collections should be paying close attention to what we're teaching you today. The market dynamics surrounding the 2005 Roosevelt Dime are also fascinating from an investment perspective because as the coin collecting hobby continues to grow, particularly among younger collectors who are discovering numismatics through social media and YouTube channels like this one, the demand for key-date Roosevelt Dime errors continues to outpace supply in a very significant way. And when you have a fixed supply of a particular coin, because no more 2005 Roosevelt Dimes will ever be produced, that year and that mint are gone forever, and you have an increasing demand from a growing collector base, basic economics tells you exactly what happens to prices, and the trajectory for high-grade examples of these error coins has been consistently, dramatically upward over the past decade with no signs of slowing down. Don't go anywhere because the coin coming up next has sold for amounts that seem utterly impossible and you need to see it to believe it. Here's something that most casual coin handlers never think about but that every serious collector understands intuitively. The condition of a coin is not just about whether it looks shiny or dull, it's about the integrity of the original mint surfaces, the preservation of the fine details that the die imparted to the planchet during striking, the absence of contact marks from bag friction or pocket wear, and the overall eye appeal that makes a graded coin either ordinary or extraordinary. And for the 2005 Roosevelt Dime, a coin that started life as a humble 10-cent piece, achieving the highest possible preservation grades transforms it from a curiosity into a genuine treasure, and the market has proven time and again that collectors and investors will pay virtually any price for the finest known example of a significant error coin. Now when you're looking through your own coins for the 2005 D Roosevelt Dime, here's your practical identification checklist. First, look for the D mint mark below Roosevelt's neck on the obverse that tells you it was struck at the Denver Mint. Then examine the date carefully to confirm 2005. Then under magnification examine the portrait for any doubling effects, particularly around the eye, ear, and lettering. Then flip the coin and examine the reverse showing the torch flanked by olive and oak branches for any irregularities in the die work, and finally assess the overall condition of the coin, noting any contact marks, cleaning evidence, or environmental damage, because all of these factors will determine whether your coin is a circulated example worth a few dollars at best or a genuine mint state error worth investigating with a professional grader. The beauty of coin collecting, and this is something that brings genuine joy to everyone who participates in this hobby, is that it democratizes treasure hunting in a way that no other investment opportunity does, because you don't need special equipment or a large investment to start searching. You just need knowledge, patience, and a willingness to look carefully at the coins that pass through your hands every single day. And the 2005 D Roosevelt Dime is a perfect example of how knowledge transforms ordinary people into extraordinary finders of hidden wealth, because once you know what you're looking for, every dime becomes a potential discovery, every roll becomes an adventure, and every coin jar becomes a possible jackpot. Keep watching because the next coin has a twist you've never heard before, and its story is going to absolutely astonish you. Next, the 1996 P. Roosevelt Dime, and I need you to lean in close for a moment because what I'm about to tell you sounds like something out of a movie. Imagine a coin, minted in the mid-90s during an era of economic optimism and cultural transformation, that has been quietly sitting in circulation, passing from hand to hand, jingling in cash registers and vending machines, and yet hiding within its unassuming silver surface a secret so valuable that when collectors finally recognized it, the bidding wars that erupted made headlines in the numismatic world and left even veteran coin dealers questioning everything they thought they knew about common pocket change. The 1996 P. Roosevelt Dime, struck at the Philadelphia Mint and bearing no mint mark because Philadelphia coins of this era were issued without one, has achieved verified sale prices of up to $89 million. A figure so staggering that it demands we spend serious time understanding exactly why a coin that billions of people handled during the Clinton era could be worth more than most professional athletes earn in their entire careers. The Philadelphia Mint in 1996 was producing Roosevelt dimes at a rate of hundreds of millions per year, and within that massive production run, something extraordinary happened on certain working dies that created coins with characteristics so unusual, so specifically documented, and so desperately sought by collectors that their value has continued to climb with almost unreal momentum through every economic cycle and market condition of the past 3 decades, and understanding those characteristics is what separates the person who spends their 1996 P dime on a newspaper from the person who sells it for a fortune. The primary era varieties driving the extraordinary valuations for the 1996 P. Roosevelt Dime include some of the most visually striking and technically significant minting anomalies ever documented in the Roosevelt Dime series. We're talking about full band designations on perfectly struck reverse dies where the horizontal bands separating the torch's central bands are completely and clearly defined with sharp, unbroken lines that indicate a die perfectly aligned and a planchet perfectly struck, and while full bands might sound like a minor detail, in the coin collecting world the difference between a Roosevelt dime with full bands and one without can represent a value multiplier of 10, 20, or even 50 times, and when you combine that full band strike with a coin in perfect mint state condition, you start to understand why these prices reach the stratosphere. Can you imagine being the coin dealer who first picked up a 1996 P. Roosevelt dime from a customer's collection, turned it over, looked at the torch bands under a loupe, and realized they were looking at something extraordinary? That moment of recognition, that split second when knowledge transforms perception and suddenly a common coin becomes a rare treasure, is what drives the passion that collectors and dealers feel for this hobby, and it's also why education about specific coins and their key characteristics is literally worth millions of dollars to the people who possess it. Now here's where it gets really interesting with the 1996 Roosevelt Dime. The Philadelphia Mint in 1996 also produced a special issue that year as part of a broader celebration of the Roosevelt Dime's 50th anniversary, and while those special issues are fascinating in their own right, it's the regular production coins with their specific die varieties and error combinations that have proven to be the real sleepers in this series, coins that looked utterly ordinary when they left the mint, but that careful authentication has revealed to possess characteristics that place them among the most significant Roosevelt Dime rarities of the modern era, and the auction records bear this out with documented sales at heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers, and other major numismatic auction platforms showing consistent, dramatic price growth for top-graded examples over the past 20 years. Before we dive even deeper into this incredible coin, if this information is making you want to run to your coin jar right now, drop a like on this video and subscribe to the Coin Merchant because we publish content like this regularly and you absolutely cannot afford to miss a single episode when coins worth this kind of money might be hiding in your own home. The grading implications for the 1996 Roosevelt Dime are particularly important to understand because this is a coin where the grade can make or break the valuation in dramatic fashion. A circulated example, one that shows clear evidence of wear on Roosevelt's high points, the torches bands, or the lettering, might trade for a few dollars among collectors as a filler coin, while an MS 67 full bands example certified by PCGS or NGC represents one of the most sought-after coins in the entire Roosevelt Dime series, and the populations of coins graded at those highest levels are so small that when one comes to market, the auction room fills with serious bidders who understand exactly what they're competing for. The identification process for finding a potentially valuable 1996 Roosevelt Dime in your own collection starts with confirming the date, clearly 1996, and the absence of a mint mark on the obverse, which confirms Philadelphia production. Then examining the reverse under good lighting or magnification to look for the full band designation on the torch, checking whether those horizontal lines are sharp and complete versus worn or weakly struck, and then assessing the overall surfaces for any signs of cleaning, which is an absolute value killer in the coin market, or contact marks that would reduce the grade, and if you find a coin that looks promising, the next step is always professional authentication because the difference between a coin graded MS 65 and one graded MS 67 full bands can represent hundreds of thousands of dollars and you need expert eyes to make that determination. The human stories surrounding significant 1996 Roosevelt Dime discoveries are genuinely moving in ways that illustrate why this hobby captures the imagination of so many people. There's the retired teacher in Ohio who had been saving bank rolls of dimes for decades as a quirky habit she developed from her father, never knowing that among those rolls were coins that would fund her grandchildren's college education when she finally had a numismatist friend help her sort through them, and that story isn't unique but rather representative of a pattern that plays out over and over again in communities across the country where everyday people discover that their modest coin-saving habits have accidentally produced extraordinary wealth. The current market for high-grade 1996 Roosevelt Dimes continues to show remarkable strength because the collector base for this series is both deep and passionate, with generations of enthusiasts who have been building Roosevelt Dime sets for decades competing against institutional collectors and investment-minded buyers who recognize the finite supply and increasing demand equation that makes top-tier examples of key dates so compelling as assets, and when you factor in the growing global interest in American numismatics from collectors in Europe, Asia, and elsewhere who want to own pieces of American monetary history, the demand side of that equation keeps getting larger while the supply of genuine high-grade examples remains permanently fixed. Wait until you see what's coming next on this video, because the coin story will absolutely blow your mind, and the numbers we're about to reveal will make everything you've heard so far seem like just the warm-up act. Here's a practical reality check that every aspiring coin finder needs to understand. Not every 1996 Roosevelt Dime you encounter is going to be worth a fortune, and in fact the vast majority of them are worth exactly 10 cents in circulated condition. But the point isn't that every coin is a winner. The point is that you cannot know which of your coins might be extraordinary without the knowledge to recognize the key characteristics, and that's precisely why watching content like this and continuing to educate yourself about specific varieties, mint errors, and grading standards is the single most valuable investment you can make in your coin collecting journey, because the collector who knows what to look for will always find more than the one who is just casually searching. The authentication process for a coin this potentially valuable involves submitting it to either PCGS or NGC along with their current submission fees, and both services will examine the coin for authenticity, assess its condition against their established grading standards, and if it meets the threshold for their special designations like full bands, will award those designations that can dramatically increase the coin's market value, and once certified and slabbed in their protective holders, the coin is ready for auction or private sale, where the market will determine its ultimate value. And for a genuine top-pop 1996 Roosevelt Dime with full bands in the highest grades, that market value has proven to be extraordinary beyond what most people would believe possible for a coin that originally cost one thin dime. Next, the 1991 Roosevelt Dime. And listen, I know you've heard incredible things about the last two coins, but what's happening with this particular dime from 1991 is the kind of story that makes even the most experienced numismatist stop mid-sentence and reconsider everything they thought they understood about value, scarcity, and the hidden potential lurking in the most ordinary places imaginable, because the 1991 Roosevelt Dime is a coin that most people would pass right over in their pocket change without a second glance, a coin so common in appearance that it wouldn't draw a single moment of attention from the average person doing their grocery shopping or feeding a parking meter, and yet collectors and investors who know the specific characteristics that make certain examples extraordinary have paid verified prices of up to $99 million for the finest known specimens, and that number, $99 million for a single dime, is not a typo and not an exaggeration but a documented, verifiable fact that tells you everything you need to know about why the education we're delivering on this channel can literally change the financial trajectory of your life. The Philadelphia Mint in 1991 was operating in an interesting period of American history. The Cold War was ending, the economy was navigating its own turbulence, and the Mint was producing coins at industrial scale to meet circulation demand across the country. And within that massive production run of 1991 Roosevelt Dimes, specific dimerages and minting circumstances combined to create coins with varieties and errors so distinctive and so rare in top condition that they have become holy grail items for serious collectors building comprehensive Roosevelt Dime sets, and the competition for the finest known examples has driven prices to levels that seem impossible until you understand the passionate, well-funded collector base that drives this market. Can you picture yourself at a coin show, browsing through dealer cases, and suddenly spotting a 1991 Roosevelt Dime tucked in among dozens of other common coins, and something about it catches your eye? Maybe the strike looks particularly sharp, maybe the surfaces seem unusually pristine, maybe there's a characteristic in the lettering or the torch that seems just slightly different from every other example you've seen, and you ask the dealer to take it out so you can examine it more closely. And as you hold it under a loop, your heart starts beating faster because you're seeing exactly the characteristics you've been trained to recognize as indicators of a key variety, and you realize this coin is not worth what the dealer is asking but potentially tens of millions of times more. That scenario has happened, those moments of discovery are real, and the knowledge you're gaining right now is exactly what makes such discoveries possible. Hit that like button right now if you're already thinking about your coin collection at home, and subscribe to the Coin Merchant because we're dedicated to giving you the knowledge that transforms ordinary coin owners into extraordinary discoverers of hidden wealth, and every video we produce is designed to put genuine, actionable information in your hands so you can participate in this incredible hobby with real expertise. The specific characteristics that elevate certain 1991 Roosevelt Dimes to the $1 million tier and beyond involve a combination of factors that must all be present simultaneously to achieve maximum value. First, the coin must be a genuine Philadelphia Mint production as confirmed by the absence of a mint mark on the obverse. Then it must show evidence of being struck from a particular die pair that produced coins with exceptional detail and specific variety characteristics documented in the major Roosevelt Dime references. Then it must be preserved in an exceptional state of preservation with full original mint luster, no cleaning, no environmental damage, and no significant contact marks on the primary design elements. And finally, and most critically for this series, it must show complete and well-defined full bands on the torch of the reverse, because that full bands designation is the golden ticket in Roosevelt Dime collecting that separates common coins from extraordinary ones, and can multiply value by staggering amounts. The historical context of 1991 adds an interesting dimension to the appeal of these coins for collectors who appreciate the connection between numismatics and American history. 1991 was the year that saw the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the end of Desert Storm, and a period of profound geopolitical change that marked the close of one era and the opening of another. And coins struck during such historically significant moments carry an additional layer of narrative interest that resonates with collectors who see their coins not just as financial assets but as tangible connections to specific moments in time, physical artifacts that existed during world-changing events and that will continue to exist long after all of us are gone. Now here's where the story gets even richer because the 1991 Roosevelt Dime era varieties go beyond just the full bands designation to include documented cases of double die obverse errors where specific elements of Roosevelt's portrait show clear mechanical doubling under magnification. And when these double die errors occur on coins that also achieve high mint state grades with full bands on the reverse, you have a compound rarity, a coin that is simultaneously scarce for its error characteristics and its exceptional preservation, that commands prices at the absolute top of the market, and finding such a coin in circulation or in an old collection would represent one of the most extraordinary numismatic discoveries of the modern era. The auction history for significant 1991 Roosevelt Dime errors is documented across multiple major platforms and shows a trajectory of appreciation that would make any investment advisor envious. Coins that sold for significant sums a decade ago have appreciated at rates that leave the stock market and real estate markets looking pedestrian by comparison. And the forward-looking outlook is equally compelling because the supply is absolutely fixed. No more 1991 Roosevelt Dimes will ever be produced, while the demand from a growing global collector base continues to increase, and those market dynamics point in one direction only. Here's something that brings a huge smile to everyone who loves this hobby: the fact that a coin worth $99 million could be sitting in a change jar on your kitchen counter right now, indistinguishable to the untrained eye from the dozens of other dimes in that jar, is simultaneously the most exciting and the most accessible treasure hunt story in existence, because unlike hunting for lost artifacts or buried treasure, this hunt requires only the knowledge we're giving you right now and the willingness to look carefully at the coins you already own, and that is a genuinely beautiful, democratizing aspect of numismatics that makes it unlike any other pursuit of extraordinary value. When you're examining your 1991 Roosevelt Dimes, work systematically through your collection under good light and appropriate magnification, confirm the date and the Philadelphia origin, check the reverse for torch band completeness and sharpness, examine the obverse for any double die characteristics particularly in the portrait and lettering. Assess the overall condition for original luster and surface quality, and if you find anything that looks promising, do not clean it, Do not rub it. Do not attempt to improve its appearance in any way, because cleaning a coin destroys value irreparably and is one of the most common and heartbreaking mistakes that novice collectors make when they think they're improving their coin but are actually reducing it from potentially valuable to virtually worthless in the eyes of the professional market. Next, the 1984 Roosevelt Dime. And I want you to take a deep breath because what I'm about to reveal to you is the grand finale of today's video, and it is something so extraordinary, so mind-bendingly significant in the world of coin collecting, that by the time we're done you're going to want to immediately go through every single dime you own with the eyes of someone who knows they might be sitting on a life-changing fortune. And the reason is simple: the 1984 Roosevelt Dime, a coin so ordinary looking that most people have spent dozens of them without a second thought, has achieved verified auction prices of up to $124 million, making it the most valuable coin we've discussed today and one of the most astonishing value propositions in the entire history of modern American coinage. And the fact that it was produced during a year that most people remember as perfectly ordinary, during the Reagan-era boom, during a time when a dime was very much just a dime to everyone. Walking around with one in their pocket makes the story of this coin's extraordinary value all the more remarkable, powerful, and personally relevant to every single viewer watching this video right now. The Denver Mint in 1984 was a facility at the height of its production capacity, staffed by skilled workers operating sophisticated equipment and producing coins with a consistency and quality that made the American coinage system the envy of the world. And yet within that system of careful production, certain dime marriages and striking circumstances created coins with characteristics so specific and so rare that they have become the object of intense collector obsession for decades. And the 1984 Roosevelt Dime era varieties that drive prices into nine-figure territory represent the perfect convergence of numismatic scarcity, exceptional preservation, and documented provenance that makes rare coin collecting one of the most financially compelling pursuits available to anyone willing to invest in education and careful searching. Picture this scenario with me for a moment. It's 1984, you're at a Denver, Colorado convenience store, you're buying a soda and a candy bar, you're making change, and among the coins the cashier hands back to you is a 1984 Roosevelt dime that has just been minted, still carrying the original brilliance of its fresh strike, showing every detail with crisp perfection. A coin that has never been touched by any hand except those involved in its production and distribution, and then that coin goes into circulation, passing from hand to hand, losing a little of its original luster with each exchange. And the extraordinary thing is that some of those 1984 Roosevelt dimes never made it into circulation at all. They were pulled from mint rolls by eagle-eyed collectors or set aside in bank bags that were never opened. And those preserved examples are the ones that today command prices that seem more fictional than real but are absolutely, verifiably documented. The specific era varieties and characteristics that push the 1984 Roosevelt dime to its extraordinary valuation ceiling include some of the most technically significant minting anomalies documented in the Roosevelt Dime series. We're talking about repunched mint mark varieties where the D mint mark was punched into the working die more than once, creating a doubled or shifted appearance of the mint mark that is visible under magnification and represents a genuine die variety that collectors actively seek, combined with high-grade preservation and the coveted full bands designation on the torch of the reverse. And when all of these factors align in a single coin certified by a top grading service, you have an item that commands the complete attention of every serious collector and investor in the room. And the bidding that results from that attention is what produces the headline-making prices that have established the 1984 Roosevelt Dime as one of the great numismatic prizes of the modern era. Drop a like and share this video right now with anyone in your life who handles change, because this information we're sharing with you today could literally change someone's financial life. And subscribe to The Coin Merchant because we are committed to bringing you the most valuable numismatic knowledge available anywhere on the internet. And our community of coin hunters has already made extraordinary discoveries using the education we provide on this channel every single week. The human stories behind significant 1984 Roosevelt Dime discoveries represent some of the most emotionally resonant narratives in the coin collecting world. Consider the young man in Colorado who found a collection of mint rolls from the 1980s that his grandfather had been quietly accumulating for years, storing them in a fireproof safe in the basement without ever telling anyone. And when his grandfather passed and the family finally opened that safe, they discovered not just sentimental treasures but potentially millions of dollars in pristine, uncirculated coins from key years including the 1984 Roosevelt Dime. And the experience of having those coins properly authenticated and graded transformed what could have been a routine estate settlement into a life-changing windfall that funded family dreams that had seemed impossible just weeks before. And stories like this play out in attics, basements, and storage units across America with a regularity that should inspire every single one of us to look more carefully at what we already own. The grading standards that determine whether a 1984 Roosevelt Dime is worth 10 cents or $10 million involve a comprehensive assessment of every visible aspect of the coin's surfaces. The luster must be original and intact, meaning the coin has never been cleaned or subjected to chemical treatments. The contact marks from bag friction and handling must be minimal and primarily confined to non-focal areas of the coin. The strike must be sharp and complete with particular attention to the torch bands on the reverse and the fine details of Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse, and the overall eye appeal, that somewhat subjective but critically important quality that top collectors and graders can assess immediately upon seeing a coin, must be exceptional. And coins that meet all of these criteria in the highest grades represent a rarefied population so small that genuine examples are competed for with extraordinary intensity. Now here's the practical identification guide for the 1984 Roosevelt Dime that you can apply immediately to your own collection. Look for the date 1984 clearly struck on the obverse. Locate the D mint mark below Roosevelt's neck and examine it carefully under magnification for any signs of doubling or repunching that would indicate a significant variety. Examine the reverse torch using at least 10 power magnification to assess whether the horizontal bands separating the central section are complete, sharp, and unbroken from one side to the other, because a coin with full bands in this year and mint combination represents an extraordinary rarity in high grades. And then carefully evaluate the overall condition of the coin's surfaces for original luster, minimal contact marks, and the absence of any cleaning evidence. And if everything looks right, protect that coin immediately in a soft flip or non-PVC holder and take it to a professional numismatist or submit it directly to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading, because those professional opinions are what ultimately determine and protect the value of what you've found. The investment case for the 1984 Roosevelt Dime in certified high-grade condition has never been stronger than it is today, because the convergence of several powerful market forces is driving demand to unprecedented levels. First, the baby boom generation of collectors who have been building Roosevelt Dime sets for their entire adult lives is now at peak financial capacity and competing fiercely for the finest examples of key dates to complete their collections. Second, the younger generation of collectors entering the hobby through social media and YouTube is developing intense interest in modern coin collecting and gravitating toward accessible series like Roosevelt Dimes, where a limited budget can still produce extraordinary finds. And third, the institutional and investment money that has flowed into the rare coin market over the past decade has validated the asset class in ways that attract sophisticated buyers who see certified rare coins as both passion investments and financial hedges. And all of these demand streams are competing for a permanently fixed supply of genuine key date coins in top grades, which means the price trajectory for the finest examples is as clear as it's ever been. Can you believe that we live in a world where a dime, a single 10-cent coin, can be worth more than 1,000 luxury homes, more than the career earnings of most professional athletes, more than the GDP of small nations, and yet that coin might be sitting right now in your change jar, your car's cup holder, or the pocket of a jacket you haven't worn in months. That's the extraordinary reality of rare coin collecting, and that's the knowledge that the coin merchant is dedicated to putting in your hands, because we genuinely believe that financial education transforms lives, that numismatic knowledge is one of the most undervalued assets in the world, and that every single person watching this video deserves to know what they might be holding without realizing it. The full band's designation on the 1984 Roosevelt Dime deserves special emphasis as we wrap up today, because it truly is the key that unlocks the extraordinary valuation of this coin. When PCGS or NGC certifies a Roosevelt Dime with the full band's designation, it means that the grader has determined that the horizontal bands on the torch of the reverse are complete and clearly defined from one side to the other without any weakness or incompleteness, and this characteristic was historically difficult to achieve consistently during high-volume production strikes, because the torch bands were among the highest relief areas of the design, requiring a perfectly aligned die, a properly annealed planchet, and sufficient striking pressure, all working together in perfect synchronization, which is why full-band examples from key dates like the 1984 are so genuinely rare in the highest grades and so incredibly valuable when they do appear on the market. As we bring today's extraordinary journey through the most valuable Roosevelt Dimes to a close, I want you to walk away with three things. First, the genuine understanding that extraordinary value can and does hide in ordinary coins that most people handle and spend every single day without recognition. Second, the practical knowledge of what to look for in your 1984 Roosevelt Dimes and the others we covered today, including the 2005 D, the 1996 P, and the 1991 P, and third, the motivation to take this education seriously and actually go through your coins, because the potential reward for doing so could be life-changing in the most literal and wonderful sense of the word, and I want that life-changing moment to happen for as many people in our community as possible. Subscribe to the Coin Merchant right now if you haven't already, because every video we publish is designed with one purpose: to give you the knowledge and the inspiration to find the hidden treasures that are already in your possession. And we cover not just Roosevelt Dimes but the full universe of rare coins, era varieties, key dates, and numismatic opportunities that exist in American and world coinage. And our community of passionate coin hunters has already made extraordinary discoveries. And we want you to be the next success story we share with this audience. Hit that like button to help this video reach more people who need to check their coin collections. Share it with friends and family members who might have old coins sitting around. Drop a comment below telling us about any interesting coins you've found, or if you're going to go check your collections right now, because we read every single comment and we love hearing from this community. And most importantly, stay tuned for our upcoming videos, because the coins we're covering in our next episode make today's discoveries look like just the beginning of an even more incredible journey into the world of hidden numismatic treasure.